What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Destination the Show. This is episode 109, Twins Top 20 Prospects for 2026 edition. I'm Jamie Cameron, joined as always by Jeremy Nygaard and Theo Tollefson. What's up, guys? How's it going?
No, we got a little news to get to right away, but Jamie doesn't know what it is. So should
Awesome.
we?
No,
Should
first
we
I want
look
to,
into this?
I want I want Jamie to know I'm doing well.
Mhm.
But I'm curious
Didn't
how
ask.
you're doing. You know, we haven't talked. You did. You said, "How are you guys doing?"
Mhm.
Fine, I take it back.
So how are you doing? What's been your gymnastics life recently?
It's off season actually, so it's very much like practice, like regular practice schedule routine, and depending on what level she ends up competing at next season will determine just how hellacious the summer looks in terms of driving, but it's relatively smooth at the moment. Honestly, I'm just grateful that it's like not waking up in the negatives every day.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay, so now is the time to tell you what the. Okay,
So-
let's do this first. Like, you got to have you got to have a sense of what's going on, right?
Yeah,
You have a
so
sense.
I don't know because you guys so background for people listening. It is 9 p.m. Central on Wednesday, February 11th. We always are texting back and forth before we record. You
Mhm.
guys were like, and we have some breaking news. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna make an assumption, a couple of things, and I'll tone down my language. One, that the Twins probably signed a right-handed reliever. Two, that I am going to be underwhelmed by whoever that right-handed reliever might be because there are no good ones left.
So are you? Do you think it's a 40-man reliever or a minor league invite reliever?
Someone, I mean, and it really needs to be a 40-man reliever because who they're trotting out in the bullpen. Okay, it's not a 40. So that's even less exciting. I'm unmoved. I'm prepared to be unmoved by whoever this is.
It would be less fun, but there's one part that makes it fun.
Mhm.
Please.
Nothing.
Put me out of my misery.
Theo. Go for it, Theo.
Yeah. So they've reported that Liam Hendricks is coming back to Minnesota on a deal that is yet to be confirmed if it's major league or minor league deal. So, and he's probably going to be
Wow.
hurt for parts of spring training. And even if he is healthy, I guarantee you he's starting his season in St. Paul one way or another. So, yeah. Welcome back, Liam Hendricks.
Wow, Jamie says. That's the quote.
So Liam Hendricks, who is 37 years old, right? 37 years old, pitched 13.2 innings in 2025.
Yeah, he was
5 innings, no innings in 2024, and 5 innings
cancer.
in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, cancer and elbows do that to you. Tom Brady was winning Super Bowls in his 40s. LeBron was all NBA in his 40s. Like, hey, 38 is the new 25. At least that's what I told myself when I was 38. Here's the thing with Liam Hendricks. The Twins have had a pretty good track record, or at least a pretty good habit of taking failed starters and making them into relievers, sometimes successful relievers, and then their careers go on. Liam Hendricks was a failed starter who they didn't even try as a reliever, didn't even exhaust his options.
Yep.
When they moved on from him, that to me was one of those like, what do you like? You could move on from pitchers, but what are you thinking when you have a prospect that was decent and then you don't even go through all the hoops to see if he can be a good reliever, and he turned out to be a very, very good reliever. And so it's fun to have him back. Like, I think Theo's right. I think he will be a rehab. It's the scrap heap type of addition that you're making, and it's low cost, whether it's a 1-year deal on this 40-man or more likely a minor league deal with a camp invite. And so I have no issues with it. I don't think he's going to be all-star Liam Hendricks, but I also think that he's as worth a shot as anybody right now for cheap.
The one thing I will say, even if they are not signing the best relievers in terms of performance right now, I don't think they could have signed a better trio of, well, brought in LaTroy Hawkins for the pitching coach, and then in terms of having a duo of veteran bullpen leaders and who've been through the Twins bullpen before and can whip these new guys into shape who are adjusting, I don't think they could have picked two better players to like be the leaders in the back end of the bullpen with Hendricks and Taylor Rogers.
I don't have any issue with anything you guys said. Like Liam Hendricks, I think my favorite thing about him is like he is notoriously like a great dude. That's not necessarily the most important thing in baseball, but whatever, like all things being equal, that's cool. I just can't like the bar is so low now for the things that we're listing as assets and player acquisitions that it makes me sad. Like Jeremy, you're saying he's cheap as like yay. And like, yeah, I don't know. I'm so over it and cynical about the roster construction of the big league team at this point. And I know we did not record last week post Falvey ousted from his position, but just like this is such a rudderless mess of an organization at the big league level, and that's mostly not what we talk about anyway. But regardless of like the excitement of like a good guy who big time passes the vibes check and can be like a great mentor for young pitchers, which is cool and valuable. The construction of the big league roster in general, and especially the bullpen, makes absolutely no sense to me when you stack it up against the messaging of new monosyllabic POLAD that they're going to be competitive in 2026. So that's really like cool. Liam Hendricks, yay. That's really the question I'm curious about. And like maybe we spend a couple minutes talking about Falvey before we dig into top 20 prospects. What do you guys think about the aftermath of that, and like just in general, like where the organization is post Falvey exit?
Well, one last thing. I'm not like cheap yay. I'm like,
I know you're just catching strays. I'm sorry.
Doesn't cost anything to take a look.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm all for like 1 year deals. Can't sign a bad one. And so if you can get a guy in a minor league deal who could potentially have something in the tank, well, it's not a great likelihood of that, but why wouldn't you give this guy a shot? And so I think that's more where I'm like, hey, I'm for it. You know, I saw him on a Twins caravan like 20 years ago, and so I just think it's a neat story. And if he comes back and is good, like that's more fun because he was a former Twin.
For sure.
Moving on to the Falvey stuff. At some point you just get fed up, right? I mean, as a fan, that what did you call this? A rudderless. What was your term? Rudderless
organization.
Was there more in there that was?
I'm sure.
and like fans are like, I'm not going to do it anymore. Season ticket holders are like, I'm not going to do it anymore. And it's so bad that the president of baseball operations also said, yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. Like that's the reality of the situation. And so I get him calling it the end of his Twins career, because it just wasn't going to work, and that he tried so hard to do it with less and just understands baseball from a putting teams together perspective. And hey, let's stop with the payroll thing and let's talk about being competitive.
Favorite quote.
So it's just a different POLAD who is going to say different words and sound different, and the result is going to be the same. They're not going to invest in the team. Now there are some good players, and maybe they win some games, and maybe there's some fun, and I'll still enjoy going to watch baseball outside, because why wouldn't I? But it's just a sad deal when you can't, like, one of the dream jobs, one of the 30 dream jobs in the world of baseball, and a guy's just like, nah, don't want it. That's sad.
Here's my 2 cents about the Falvey thing that I'll roll through these couple of thoughts, and then we'll hear from Theo because he was in and amongst all of the coverage of this. My beef is this, or my contention is this. It's a little more nuanced than or for me at least, than the restriction of resources and the slashing of payroll. I actually think that the bigger issue is that the conditions in which you're working in as a front office are always changing rather than the resources are getting less and less. Like we see in baseball all the time, organizations that are really well adjusted at operating within tight budget constraints. Like the Rays are the classic example. I think the Brewers and the Guardians might be the better example of their payroll is going to be around 100 million, but they have stability in terms of the size and scope of their front office. Their systems are really mature, like how they handle the draft, like Brewers, how they extract value out of the international market, all of those things. The problem if you're working in the front office for the Twins is not necessarily we've gone from $160 million to payroll to $130 million. It's there's lag time from those decisions happening for you to adjust all of your systems to adapt to like the new state of affairs. So if you go from 160 to 130, it's going to take you a couple of seasons to figure out, okay, now we have $130 million payroll. What's the best way to build a bullpen? What's the best way to spend our free agent dollars? What's the best way to do this? If you change it again the season after and go down to closer to 100, by the time you started adjusting to how to fit your systems around 130, you've changed again. And you're just playing whack-a-mole with the conditions that you're operating in. So I would be so pissed if I was Falvey. Like you go through that gutting of admittedly mostly the bullpen at the trade deadline, and then your new person comes in and says, actually, we need to be competitive in 2026, but your payroll is, whatever the stats that Gleeman has recently tweeted out in terms of where it sits in the league, where it's sat compared to Metrodome totals. It's so frustrating. And I feel like more than anything else, what they need to do is pick a lane that you're going to operate in that is sustainable. Not like, I'm not talking about their finances. I'm talking about that you can say, here's where we're going to be for the next 5 years. We're going to increase payroll slowly from 100 million to 130 million over 5 years. Here's what that looks like. But everything is so unpredictable that both fans and folks in the front office are just checking out because you don't know what to expect. And it makes it feel like there's no vision for how you're going to accomplish success, which fans so desperately want to see on the field. Rant over. Theo, what was your takeaways from being in and around the like media scrums and all that good stuff?
Well, I will say after we did our Zooms with Falvey and Polad, we did find out kind of behind the scenes that more and more people, whether it is front office jobs or just other day-to-day operations, people working behind the scenes have been laid off. And from our understanding, Falvey kind of took the fall to save some money so other people wouldn't lose their jobs. So I think that was part of it. I think everything you guys just described was also a part of it too. He was like, do more with less, and you can only do that for so long with putting together a roster, as we've seen these last couple seasons. And the big thing, he was like, I wish we had continued to build off that momentum at 2023 at the end of the season. I mean, that's going to always be the sticking point for him. But he's going to take the year off from being in front office jobs, and he's still going to follow the game, of course. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be just around spring training as a fan and probably around games as a fan. But this next hiring cycle come October, he's definitely going to be getting a number 2 or number 1 job in any front office once it becomes available, if he wants it. He's got that opportunity. I think hopefully he does finally get the opportunity he's been dreaming for, where he has the resources to build a competitive team, the one that can make some deep postseason runs season after season, and not these sporadic little sprouts we saw during his tenure with the Twins. And I mean, we could go over so many other things, but just the aftermath of all this, I think there was a sigh of relief that he kind of just was able to walk away from this situation on his own terms Granted, the timing is completely unusual for the industry when these things happened. 2 weeks before spring training, you think everything's coming together and you're excited for the new season. And if they were going to fire him, it was going to be in October. But I think, the opportunity was there for him and he wanted to take it while it was still available before, it becomes a firing or something else and other people lose their jobs while he's still there, hypothetically pulling his hair out of frustration of where this team's going.
Brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sufficiently vented at this point. Now we can start talking about prospects.
Yeah, let's get optimistic. Talk about the future. Yay!
So I'm already gonna suggest that we maybe do a pivot here, and we can see how we're doing for time. It might make sense, guys, for us to split this into 2 and go 1 through 10 this week, and go 11 through 20 next week. But we'll kind of see how we're doing for time. Sensing we're not going to get through 20 in 45 minutes. So here's how I'm hoping we can run through this format. This is kind of an annual tradition at Destination the Show, which is crazy because it's the 3rd time we've done this. We're going to run through our kind of dueling top 20 lists. We'll go through position by position. Everyone will kind of introduce their guy who they have sitting in that slot. And then we'll dig in some discussion. Obviously, as we go down the list, the list will get more kind of diverse and varied. But for each of the top guys, we'll probably spend a little time digging into overview of their 2025, any major questions for 2026, what constitutes success, and then are they an up arrow guy or a down arrow guy from our particular seats. I'm sure we'll have some fun debates along the way. Jeremy, you ready? Theo, you ready? You guys ready?
I'm always ready.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make a hopefully not so bold assumption here that we all have a common number 1 prospect in the Minnesota Twins system, which is one Walker Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Quick recap, then we'll throw it out to the group for some chat about Mr. Jenkins. So 2025 season, played 84 games, made it all the way up to AAA as a 20-year-old at 286, 399, 451, a 135 WRC plus, close to a 14% walk rate, strikeout rate just over 20%. Really looked the part pretty much in every aspect of his game. I think the one question you could maybe ask is, are we going to see an uptick in home run power and extra base hits in 2026? But guys, any reflections on Jenkins, things you want to share out, things you're looking for in 2026, and what constitutes success for him coming into this season?
I think watching him at the end of the last year in St. Paul was definitely a treat, even if it was just for a week's worth of games at home, because most of the Saints' final 4 weeks were on the road. He's really got a good head on his shoulders. He's really matured well, and from his point of view, I think he would rather spend a little extra time in AAA and not be rushed to the majors. And he's going to be turning 21 next week, so he's still very young. And I think when I did my top 20 list at the end of 2025, he was 7.3 years younger than the average age of players in the International League. So obviously that's going to go up just a little bit, but that's still, very compelling about what he is. And obviously the power is going to come in, starting the year at CHS Field is probably not going to be the best place to really evaluate how that power is developing, because the weather can be really unfavorable for a lot of hitters in the International League to start the season, considering how many rainouts they had last year in April alone. So yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. And again, if people are down on the Twins as a friend, and going to Target Field right now, there's always the easy option of going to Saints games, which are always entertaining with the staff that they have there, just getting fans involved in the game. And you can see Walker Jenkins for probably a good first month or 2 down there and just really enjoy how he develops that power.
Yep.
I guess my things to add are, can he stay healthy? Right? He just hasn't. The most games he's played for any given team as a professional is 52 for the Wind Surge last year. Didn't really hit for power like you mentioned, but I do think as he develops that'll happen. But how much is he going to have to sacrifice his ability to not strike out? He struck out 3-1 with walks at St. Paul, and he'd always been a better ratio than that. Part of that is just moving up levels. And so I think it's the stuff like that. Curious to see if he remains in center field because the reality is he doesn't need to be the center fielder. I think, maybe in the future, but the path, hoping that Buxton's healthy, the path is that he would be in the corner. So just to see kind of how, that first that he's available, and then how the Twins use him and use him in the organization as a Saint. And then when he really shows that AAA is not too hard, right? He wasn't great in 23 games, 720 OPS, which was his worst of any team that he's played for professionally, except for Wichita in 2024. So just continuing to develop, but he's got to stay on the field. That to me is the biggest question.
I feel like that's something we're going to say about a lot of guys throughout this list. We'll also note that like Jenkins, I don't know, just from my perspective a little bit in his his like little 22 game sample at St. Paul's, maybe pressing a little bit. He had a really high chase rate in his small sample size there, which is not really part of his game, but chased over 30% of the time. Would expect him to adjust and correct course there. I don't know that we need to spend too much more time on Jenkins. I do think I guess we'll see. I think we're going to see some divergence in the next couple, though. So let's dig into prospect number 2s for everybody. Theo, your number 2 Twins prospect is?
Kalen Culpepper.
Jeremy, your number 2 Twins prospect is?
Kalen Culpepper.
Okay. Kalen Culpepper is also mine. So let's quickly overview his 2025 season, then we'll jump right into how we're thinking about 2026. So 113 games for Culpepper last season, split pretty evenly across high A and double A, hit a combined 289, 375, 469, a 138 WRC plus, a pleasantly surprising 20 home runs, 25 stolen bases out of 29 attempts, walked 10% of the time, struck out 17% of the time. I mean, he did wear down at the end of last season, and I think he missed the last week or maybe a little bit more with just like a minor nagging injury. But hard to be anything other than super impressed with Culpepper's first full pro season. So question for you guys first off is, where are you expecting him to start 2026? Do we think he's going to Wichita or St. Paul?
St. Paul.
See, I think Wichita.
Oh, why, dude?
You think St. Paul?
I think that if you look at his splits month by month last year, like he really fell off a cliff in August. Mm-hmm. And I think if he had just maintained just even kind of an average dribble slash in August, he probably would have gone to St. Paul with Walker Jenkins. That was my thought. And then there's no question about it. So I don't know, like Jeremy, you always talk about like you want to see him pass the level. We've typically seen with the Twins, like somewhere in the 50 to 60 game range seems to be there. Like if they're performing well, we're going to push him up a level. He had 54 games at high A. He's now had 59 games at double A, putting up a 129 WRC plus. I don't know that he has that much more to prove.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. But I think it could very well be St. Paul, and I will be wrong. But I guess from my perspective right now, then there's not really a natural next shortstop on the roster. Arcia is the minor league invite, which I think he will play shortstop every day at St. Paul, and that means that Culpepper won't if he's at St. Paul. But I think you want to get him as many reps at short as possible. And Theo mentioned the weather, the cold, and Culpepper is not exactly a guy that spent a lot of time in the cold, right? K-State to the south. And so he can go to Rochester to start the year and Wichita, and literally be moved up at any point, right? And so that to me is why, if something were to happen, Brooksley tends to be injured at the beginning of the year. Maybe RC is the opening day shortstop. Maybe Culpepper is the opening day shortstop. Like I think there's options here, but I want him to play every day, and I don't want him to have to move around. And so is Houston going to start at Wichita? I don't foresee that happening either. And so just the hierarchy to me makes sense that he can go to Wichita for a little bit and do no harm. Could it be St. Paul? Sure. I like the idea of him staying a little bit warmer, getting things going, and having that opportunity to shine there and then kind of ride that wave up.
Here's my other question for you guys then on the Kalen Culpepper discussion. Let's say he starts the St. Paul, just for argument's sake, Jeremy, you're wrong because that makes me happy when you are. He has a good first 2 months of the season, crushes in St. Paul. He's ready for like a June call-up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume, in general, the rest of the Twins are somewhat healthy, which I know is laughable. Where are we slotting Culpepper in defensively for the Twins when he migrates over from St. Paul to Minneapolis? What do we think makes the most sense? Because you've got like Royce at third, right? So like, where is he going to go?
I think you have to start him out at shortstop for the time being with how depleted the depth is there right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So Brooks Lee is losing a job if K Pepper is gaining one, is what we're saying.
I think Brooks moves into utility infielder, and I think that would honestly be better served for him at this point because it'd be more backing up Royce at third and Keishel at second and kind of just rotating between the two of them. And that would definitely work more to his benefit with how he moves on the infield because he's not like the fastest guy, but he's got decent range, but not the best. So I just think that's the way things are kind of shaking up to be, but also best case scenario, with Culpepper, I think his ceiling as a hitter, as we saw this past year, is a 2020 guy, but that's not something I think we would expect to see, even if he gets called a best case scenario in June. I mean, do we think he's going to be someone whose power is not going to show until he's like in his third season in the majors?
I guess my thing is even more simple. Brooks Lee is in more danger of losing his starting position than Royce Lewis. That to me is just, I think the reality. I also think if Keishel is used in different positions, it makes more sense for Brooks Lee to play second. And that would just kind of naturally open shortstop up. But I think there's a lot of questions. There's just right now there's a lot of how do I say this the right way? There's a lot of fat on the 40-man that's going to get opportunities.
Totally.
And I don't necessarily think that they belong on a 26-man roster.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when it comes to just talent in the future, Kalen Culpepper makes a lot more sense than the guys that have been acquired or the guys that are currently on the bottom half of the 40-man.
So just for the sake of putting a cap on this around the power projection, Zips likes Kalen Culpepper a lot, has him as a 2 to 2.5 win player for the next 3 seasons, which would be tremendous. And has him in like the 13 to 15 home run range over like 112 to 120 games a season, which I think is an outcome that you could get me to sign up for right now.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, Brooks Lee on the hot seat. Didn't know we were going to get there so quickly. That's kind of sad. Okay, we've got to do this with our first 2 guys, so let's quickly recap it. Walker Jenkins, up arrow, down arrow, or middle arrow. Jeremy, what do you say?
Oh,
can't do diagonals.
That's up. That's an up arrow, right? I mean, I think as a prospect, we haven't seen the best of him yet. So up arrow as long as he's healthy, because he's a top 10 prospect in baseball.
Okay. Theo?
Same for me. Up arrow.
Okay. Kalen Culpepper, up, down. Same.
He was 4th for me the last time we did this, and he's 2nd. And so to me, he's jumped over other people, which means that's an up arrow.
All right.
Yep.
There you go. Good deal. Always what you want to see. Up arrows with your top few guys. We'll move on to guy number 3. Theo, your number 3 overall Twins prospect is not Charlee Soto. Who is it?
You're going to hold this over me forever. Eduardo Tait.
Ooh, okay. Cool.
Okay.
Jeremy?
I had 3 guys kind of in the same area. I didn't go with Tait. I went with another guy, and I actually went kind of Prelip.
Ooh. Okay. Right on. 3 different selections at 3 My number 3 Twins prospect is Emmanuel Rodriguez. Who do you guys want to talk about first? Taillon, Prelip, Erod. Who's up?
Let's go Erod since
Since he's your favorite.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my Erod thing. We don't need to do a ton of recapping on him, but I do want to say his injuries, I think, have obscured a little bit the fact that he still performed well last season. We all know he hasn't been on the field much. However, in 65 games, a 135 WRC plus, a 21% walk rate is ridiculous. We know about the strikeouts. We know about the host in the swing. We know about the bat to ball concerns. All of that is true. We also, I think, don't talk about how elite his power is. 115 max exit velocity. Looks legit decent in center field. Maybe not like long-term there, but certainly passable. Here's my thing and why I have Erod at 3. Cannot take away any of the injury chat. And really, this year, if he doesn't stay on the field, I think Jeremy, you said this before, he's not going to end up in top. He's going to be off all top 100 lists, and he should be. Erod, I think, is the most important player in the Twins system. Most important prospect. He is the only prospect not named Walker Jenkins who I think has a legit shot at having an outcome that is a 3 to 4.5 win player, as opposed to a 2 to 3 win player, like a good everyday regular type. I think he's the only other guy who has a shot at being like a legit impact guy, 30 home run power, 20 stolen bases, plays a premium defensive position, at least passably. And so the reason I'm in on him at 3 is when he has been on the field, even with all of his warts, he's never shown anything other than being pretty dang successful at every level he's played at. So I will take your counterpoints to Erod, and then we'll move on and talk about the other 2 guys that you brought up.
I will say he was cold out of the gate to start the season last year. Granted, he had another thumb injury that kept him on the lineup with St. Paul, but I think he was definitely impacted by the cold weather and small injuries, and that's why I kind of have moved down on him. I mean, he's my number 4. I'll say that right now. But just because of the injuries, seeing how slowly he was out of the gate and just how far apart his time was on the field, especially in St. Paul, that's why it was just hard to, I mean, the ceiling's there. I think he's got the widest range of any of the Twins prospects right now in terms of what the outcome could be for him. Like you said, superstar potential, but one more bad injury and he could be done.
Yeah, I'm just at the point where he's been a tease and he's been hurt, and I think I first floated the idea early when we started to do this, so we're talking 2023, right?
Oh God, here comes the smugness. Go on.
That his trade value is never going to be higher, and I think, and so for me, he's a down arrow guy because the trade value is less. And Theo's right. I mean, he's one poor season. I don't even know if it's injury or poor season away from irrelevance, and maybe that's harsh. But Oswaldo Arce has been my comp, and he flashed and then fizzled. And to me, and that's all to say. He's my number 5. So the ceiling's high, but the floor is low, and the floors is a reality. So
yep.
I would love for you to be able to tell me how wrong I am about this, because he'd be super exciting. He's that sort of player, right? That you turn on the TV to watch. It's just, for me, it's how long are we going to hold on to this hope when it's flash, but there hasn't really been any consistency.
For sure. And I think this is my last season for it, to be honest. And I think the only other last counterpoint I would make, right, is we've seen the reality of a Twins offensive core of high-floored guys. That's what their current team is. Trevor Larnach was seen as a high-floored guy. There haven't been any high variance guys, really, maybe with the exception of Royce Lewis. Brooks Lee, high-floored guy, has been terrible. Trevor Larnach, high-floored guy, has generally been pretty bad. And so if I look at a different organization that sadly is looking more and more like the Twins, or the Twins are looking more and more like in Pittsburgh, the reason they're starting to become relevant is they've hit on some guys in the draft in like Paul Skeens and Connor Griffin. And obviously those are outlier examples, but they've hit on a couple of superstar guys. And that's how you get yourself into a window of contention as a low spending team. And so the Twins need a Walker Jenkins or Emmanuel Rodriguez to ascend to a legit star player type if they're going to fulfill Tom Paulette's wishes of being good despite not being invested in. That's my only last point. All right, let's talk about Taiit. Theo, tell us why Taiit was your number 3 guy. What you got?
He made it to high A at just 18 years old. He treaded water there. I know he didn't have the flashiest, appearance when he made it to high A, but I mean, he held his own, and his arm is absolutely a strength, which the Twins need in their catching farm system right now because it's not so good. So I really like his upside. Obviously, another player where, and especially at the position he's playing, where the downside is really low. So he could drop off real quick if he can't build off the success he had at high A and kind of make improvements as the summer goes on. And I think we can all agree he's probably going to be having a pretty poor April just because it's his first time playing in cold weather in Cedar Rapids. So I'm not really going to hold that as he's probably going to drop to the lower half of my top 10. I mean, we'll see where he's at come July, around the time of the draft, and that's when we'll really get to see, like, okay, where is he heading? Is he in the right direction? And if he's like, has a good 4 months and he holds his own, I mean, there's a chance he could potentially be in Wichita at 19, which is huge. But there's a lot of ifs here, and we only just got a small sample size of him after the trade. And I know there's a lot riding on him on being the top catching prospect in the organization right now. And the catching pipeline is just non-existent before the trade deadline. So they kind of just need someone like him to build the hope around, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, quick recap on his performance, Jeremy, before you jump in here. 253, 311, 427, 103, WRC plus, 7.4% walk rate, 20.4% strikeout rate. So it doesn't strike out too much. 14 home runs, 112 games. Jeremy, where did you have Taiit? Could I assume that you had him 4 and then Erod 5 for you?
Correct. I had Taiit 4, and really when I got to that point, and like I said, Prelip, Taiit, and Erod all very much the same. I keep coming back to the fact that Taiit could potentially be the best catching prospect in baseball, which is not super high praise because it's not great around the league right now. But I do think, like Theo said, super high ceiling. And when you project this far away, but he's young and he's performed, and I'm going to be optimistic that he's going to be able to catch. And so for me, it was that kind of separated him from Erod. So yeah, Taiit is a top 4 prospect for sure.
Yeah.
You're down on him.
I'm not, though, because I have him slotted at 4, so I like him plenty. I think it's more of a lack of preference for this type of prospect, which the Twins do not seem to mind this. He is a free swinging, does not take a walk, doesn't really have much of an approach, chases a ton of stuff out of the zone. The Twins have made inroads with that type of guy. Kalen Culpepper was that kind of guy in college. Luke Keeschel, weirdly, was that type of guy. We think of him as a super selective hitter. He used to chase a lot. I just there's so many questions about Taiit that I just kind of compartmentalized him as I'm not going to think about him till August and see what he's done at Cedar Rapids. You guys can correct me if you think I'm off base. I'm going to assume that he's spending the vast majority of 2026 at Cedar Rapids, and maybe it's a late promotion to AA type of a deal. But I guess maybe it's just a distance from the majors thing. I can't get excited about him. I'm not sure.
But even still, I mean, a 19-year-old that's going to play. I mean, he played 30 games at high A already. 37.
37. Yeah.
And so, I mean, he didn't turn 20 until the end of August. I would guess he'll be in Wichita by then.
Yeah. That is is crazy.
That's super impressive, and that to me is he's not going to catch every day. but he'll be in the lineup quite a bit, and if he could just keep getting better, there's the argument that as soon as Jenkins graduates, I'd assume he'd be the first if he's healthy. That Tait could be the number one prospect in the organization. So, yeah, he's so young, and there's a lot of hope, I think.
Yep. Definitely a high risk, high reward guy. Let's recap these next two guys. Erod, up arrow, down arrow the same. What are we thinking there, guys? Down?
For me, he's down.
Theo?
About the same.
Winter.
I think he's about the same for me too. And I think like Culpepper is number 2, but Erod still has a higher ceiling, my opinion. Tait, up, down, or the same?
I mean, I don't know that his prospect status for me has changed at all since the season ended.
Inconclusive.
Yeah, I mean, it would stay the same. He was a top 100 guy, and he still is. So,
yep.
I think that to me, he's a steady arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Okay, Jeremy, your number 3 guy was Connor Prelip. Theo, you had Prelip ranked where? 5. Same here. Jeremy, I assume this means that Connor Prelip is the starting pitcher in your world. Tell us about number 3 ranking.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the debate, right? Is if he's a starting pitcher, we look at him one way. If he's a relief pitcher, we look at him at an entirely different way. I would never have a relief pitcher ranked this high. He got hit more than I thought he would last year, but he stayed healthy. And I've said it a number of times. Like if he stays healthy in 2025, it's a win. Don't care how he is. Developing more pitches.
Mm-hmm.
The off-speed stuff is still really good. And I think that if the Twins continue on the path that they're on, and I don't think you go on that path adding stuff to his repertoire if you're going to then pull it back and make him a relief pitcher. So, and I think there might also be, like, if we can get him on a consistent rotation, that's better for someone that's had elbow problems. So yeah, I believe in him as a starter. I'm interested to see how they handle the Zebbies, the Festas, the Abels of the world, because if those become relief pitchers, then Prelip moves up in the kind of the depth chart. But is there a possibility that we see another starting pitcher added on a 1-year deal yet? I think that's maybe possible too. So I believe in his stuff, and he's finally back to health, and he's taking the ball every week. And I think that he could be, the Liriano is probably an aggressive comp, but I do think that that's kind of the reality of what his stuff will look like when he's right.
Love it. Theo, your thoughts on Prelip?
I think he starts the year in the Saints starting rotation, but he ends the year in the Twins bullpen.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think they're still going to just try him out. Obviously, whenever he's making the starts this beginning of the year, he's not going to pitch more than like 3-4 innings, and he's going to be on that slow build-up workload. And if he can maintain that, they might shift come the start of the summer. But I don't see him being a part of the Twins opening day bullpen. I think, you build off the success he had this last year and just staying healthy. You see if he can be a little more comfortable trying to get hitters to chase pitches outside the zone, because he was trying to be too comfortable pitching them in. And that's why we saw so much high contacts, especially at St. Paul. So that's, I think, the next biggest challenge. And maybe you do just have him try that out as a starter versus trying to give his all at the beginning of the year in the bullpen. So I think that's the thing I'm going to be looking at more closely, is just how he's, attacking hitters both inside and outside the zone to his own benefit, because he's got the stuff to really make them look like fools if they're swinging outside the zone. But I think he was so focused on trying to stay healthy all year, he wasn't really trying to push, what he can do to, mix his command and get hitters to look like fools.
Yep. I agree with that assessment wholeheartedly. I would add, I think, like, if Prelip does transition to the bullpen for the Twins, that to me does not take him off the table as a starter later necessarily. Mm-hmm. Like, there is a world in which Prelip is a starter at AAA, a reliever in the majors, and then 2027 is a starter in the majors potentially. And word on the street is he's up to 5 pitches now, as opposed to the 3 he ended last season with. The rumors are around a new breaking ball to go with the slider, which that sounds kind of exciting. So hopefully he's healthy all spring and through the 2026 season. Right. I think we're done with 5 guys now. Has everyone we've listed our 1 through 5?
Do we want to do our arrow for pre-lip then?
Arrow for pre-lib is moderately up for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, up for me.
I'd say up.
Yeah. Okay. Theo, your number 6 prospect is
Dasan Hill.
Jeremy?
Marek Houston.
Whoa. Okay, cool. Mine is also Dasan Hill. Jeremy, you had Dasan Hill where?
And I'm at 8. Basically, I got to this point and I had 6 guys that I shuffled quite a bit.
Yeah,
and
for
so
sure.
I think at one point I had Hill 6. But then I went through and I'm like, nope. And it's a lot of pitchers in this group. And for me, it was like Marek Houston. I think that the floor as a defender is higher. But I mean, I wouldn't argue with anybody at this point. I got 6 guys, and today I put Houston first.
Okay.
So yeah, Hill. Let's talk about Hill.
So let's talk about Hill. We'll get to Houston in a second. Just to recap his 2025, and then I'll turn it over to you, Theo, here. So as a 19-year-old, saw low A and high A, 62 innings pitched, a 3.19 ERA, 3.35 FIP. Struck out over 12 guys per 9, 31.1% of batters. Walked far too many, 15%. But when he was on, was much too good for batters he was facing at the level. Theo, what's your thoughts on Dasan Hill's 2025 and what to look forward to next season?
Well, the Twins are definitely cautious with his workload. 62 innings over 16 starts. I mean, he's averaging 4 innings a start, really, maybe a little less when you do the math. So I want to see how they can, if they build him up to 100, if they let him pitch that many. And obviously, I think it was kind of the plan we thought Charlee Soto will have for all of 2025. He's staying in Cedar Rapids all year. There's no question that they're going to push him up to Wichita, and kind of different from how they're going to approach Tayit, who has the potential to make it to Wichita. But Hill, you got to take your time with him, and they saw how fantastic he was with his strikeout numbers in Fort Myers, but now he's facing hitters who are a little bit older than him. A lot of guys who just come out of college after they get drafted are starting at high A a lot more frequently than they used to. So now he's got to kind of adjust to that and then build off it. So I think command is definitely the other thing we want to look towards too. I know with pre-lip, it's a different story is how he can use that to his advantage. Whereas Hill, he's still got to mature and get that developed, and he's still growing. I mean, he was pretty lanky when they drafted him. He's definitely put on some muscle since then, but I think he's 20 now. There's still going to be some growing to do there, so we'll see how that really affects his throwing arm.
Yeah. So age. Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
Can I ask Theo? Did you say you think he'll be at Cedar Rapids all year?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, now, Jacob.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if I agree with that, but definitely agree in general. It's like a slow burn, and it should be. 2026 will be his age 20 season. I just there's nothing not to love to me about 2025 for Hill. I watched as much of Dasan Hill as I could, especially at Fort Myers. And what I noticed with the strike throwing, which is like the thing that pops out, right? 5.81 walks per 9 is too many. Bet he would be the first person to tell you that. When he lost it, it was not like he lost it over the course of an entire start. He would lose it like midway through an inning or for a couple of batters in a row and just like lose the zone and then re-find it. And as soon as he refound it, he was making dudes look silly. The pitch mix is good. He throws really hard. I mean, he's cranking his fastball up to like really close to triple digits at this point, which isn't even like necessary. But he checked every box for me with the exception of slightly more consistent strike throwing, which I think is a fair developmental expectation for someone who was in their age 19 season last year. And I'm so excited for the Cedar Rapids rotation to start this year. 1, 2, 3 in Cedar Rapids, in no particular order, should be Dasan Hill, Charlee Soto, and Adrian Bajorquez, who was also up to 98 at the end of last season. That should be incredibly fun to watch. And I know Dasan Hill has been kind of on the fringy back end of top 100 lists. He's like firmly in that 75 to 125 prospect land for me. I think that's really fair. And again, like if he's like the only markers for me in 2026 are stay healthy again. Can you improve the control a little bit and continue to beat hitters at Cedar Rapids? He already showed evidence of that at the end of last season, but he's one of the prospects who I would expect, if he does stay healthy, to become like firmly cemented as a back end top 100 guy by midseason on like all of the national lists. Jeremy, you got anything else on him?
Yeah, I mean, he just has to limit the walks, right? I mean, if you want to be a starter,
Right.
you can't walk nearly as many guys as he walked. But it's weird because when he was drafted, he was what, 6'5", 165 pounds.
Yeah.
Like that body type has to change. And when you're adding muscle, when you're adding, like, I would anticipate that those changes also bring on a making it harder to repeat because your body's
100%.
changing, right?
100%.
And so I honestly think if he's throwing more strikes, if the walk rate comes down, he doesn't spend all year at Cedar Rapids. He'll get the 2/3 of the season in, and then he'll move up to kind of finish the year. That would be what I anticipate. And then I think, yeah, you talking about a top 100 guy. If the walks maintain, he'll probably be right off that list again.
Yep. Up, down, or stay the same arrow for Dasan Hills 2025. What do we think, guys?
Up.
Yeah, up for sure.
Yeah, big up for me too. Looking forward to seeing him in 2026. Okay, so Jeremy, let's pivot to your guy. You had Marek Houston at 6. Before we dig into him, Theo, you had Marek Houston where?
7.
7. I had him at 8. So Jeremy, why don't you give us some thoughts on why you had Houston where you had him?
Yeah, so I think we were maybe all three of us not super excited by that selection in the draft, just because it wasn't like a big, super exciting pick. Came out and performed really well at rookie level. Fort Myers made it up to Cedar Rapids for 12 games, it looks like, and was relatively bad. But it was a long season after the college season, and I just think he's never going to be a guy that has like, oh, he's going to be an all-star, he's going to hit 300. Like, you're not going to get that ceiling, but you also have a floor that's going to be higher because of his defensive ability. And your floor can only be so high if you don't hit. But I think he'll be a decent hitter. Is he going to hit for power ever? That's a huge question. But I do think that he is probably like a top 200 guy right now with the potential to be more. And he only played 20 games of professional baseball, and he's a first-round pick. So just trying to give him some time to really improve. Cedar Rapids to start the year, and we'll see how long he'll be there. If it's all year, that's fine. But I do think that he has the chance to be a guy that right now I don't think there's an arrow. I think it's pretty much like this is what we got. But I do think there's a chance to really turn that up with a good season.
Theo, any thoughts on Houston you want to share?
I think they're pretty similar to what Jeremy's already said. I mean, the appeal with him is his glove, and he's going to play well in the infield work no matter where he gets put. Obviously, if he can stick out shortstop long term, that'd be great, considering the Twins' current status with shortstop. But he's not going to be up before 2027, so we'll see how he develops with his hitting. Obviously, there was a small sample size in Cedar Rapids, and some of that can definitely be attributed to just exhaustion from his longest season ever. But we'll see how he adjusts come May and June there, and we'll see how the power is, because it's a little more power friendly in Cedar Rapids than it is in Fort Myers. So I think that's the thing we got to pay close attention to, is just where his strengths are going to be as a hitter, and if he's going to trade some of that for a little bit more power.
I need a lot of convincing on Marek Houston, guys. I don't know. I'm prepared to be wrong. I think the Twins were scoops on this draft pick. I think they wanted one of the high school shortstops. Fiend, who was drafted recently to Boston, or
Steele Hall.
or Daniel Pierce, one of those guys. I just like to answer your question directly, Jeremy, about the power. No way. I don't think it's there at all. And I'm really, I don't want to sound too hot takey. I'm leery of like you, like criticizing anyone's 36 game pro debut. His isolated power at Fort Myers was 0.74 and at Cedar Rapids was 0.87. That is, I mean, it's a singles hitter, which is fine because he's going to accrue so much value from glove, and he's a good runner too, which is an asset we probably don't talk enough about. But it's also true. You cited that like he looked good at Fort Myers. He had a close to 500 BABIP at Fort Myers, with no home runs and 1 extra base hit in his 12 games. So,
Man, you're really nitpicking.
I am nitpicking.
Well, I get it, but
because
a lot of guys maybe don't even debut, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to give him a pass on that first thing. He
totally
stayed healthy, played a whole season, and so yeah, maybe he becomes a very average prospect, but I mean, there's a reason he was a first round pick.
100%. And to be fair, this is a divergence, him and Kalen Culpepper, to me, from some of their previous archetypes that have not translated well into good major league hitters. This is a guy who has essentially like supplementary tools that you're going to get value from in defense and speed, that you're not just relying on his offensive profile. And I think the Twins have maybe had too many guys like Brooks Lee, where it's like, man, if he doesn't hit, like, what does he do well? He doesn't run. He's not a good defender. We're kind of screwed here. So I do appreciate that a ton about Houston. Okay, so we're on prospect number 7. I want to say, Theo, who's your number 7 guy?
Houston.
Jeremy?
I think my 7 is probably the same as your 7. I have Riley Quick at 7.
Nope. Wrong.
Wow.
Charlee Soto is my number 7 Twins prospect. Theo giving me a look. That's completely fine. This is going to be great, actually. We're going to get to talk about Charlee Soto on this week's pod, because I have him at 7, and on next week's pod because you have him at like 45. Jeremy, tell us about Riley. Let's start with Riley Quick because he's fun because he's brand new.
Yeah, so Quick drafted out of Alabama, big dude, 6'6", 255. He was drafted 36 overall, Comp A. Kind of rushed back from Tommy John. Looks like an offensive lineman, and did not debut professionally, but all indications from everybody that's seen him is he's the real deal. And I think, like, you said Soto. I had, for pitchers, I had Hill, Quick, Soto, Rojas, pretty much all together. I like Prelip more than those 4, but you could order them in any way. For me, it was Quick over Soto because Soto didn't really do anything last year at all.
Yeah.
And so I do think that Quick has a higher ceiling than most, maybe not Soto, but is also going to be a closer to the bigs type. Kind of this next wave, right? He might kind of spearhead that, durable frame, and does a lot of things really well. So let's see how he does when he probably debuts. I would guess, is it going to be Fort Myers or is it going to be Cedar Rapids?
It's going to be Fort Myers.
Yeah.
Fort Myers. Lock it in. Telling you
and
right
then,
now.
And then if he makes Quick work, I mean, is there the potential I might have Quick rated higher than yours, but you are a Riley Quick believer.
I am.
Is there a chance he makes a Zebby Matthews type ascension this year?
Yes. I think, in fact, let's just do a bold prediction for fun. I would actually say that if health permitting, it is more likely than not that Riley Quick ends 2026 at AA. Like, he's going to start in Fort Myers. He's going to hit Fort Myers, Cedar Rapids, and Wichita all in 1 year if he stays healthy.
I would love to see it.
So I have Riley Quick at 11, which having just given that like optimistic take about him, that is purely just because he hasn't pitched yet. And I'm refusing to rank a guy who I haven't seen throw a single pitch just on a kind of principle. However, he has been up like touch 100, legit like 4-pitch mix. I'm so excited to see Riley Quick in 2026. And speaking of fun rotations, because we talked about Cedar Rapids, Fort Myers should be some combination of Riley Quick, James Elwanger, Matt Barr, 6'11" righty Jason Reitz. That is also going to be a super, super fun group. So I do have Riley Quick down a little bit. He would shoot up for me automatically like 3-4 places if he just kind of passes the eye test and stays healthy. And I would also add that I think we've discussed him as a like most likely to break into top 100 lists in the industry candidate for the Twins. Theo, where'd you have Quick?
At 9.
Right on. Okay, I have no idea what number we're on. Okay, the other number 7 entry was.
We have to talk about Soto.
Oh yeah.
All right, let me get my quick Soto thing in, and then Theo can tell me all the ways that I'm wrong. Totally fine. Soto back end top 100 prospect type for me. Think he's on McDaniel's list still, which I did find a little surprising because he really didn't pitch in 2025. Managed just 13 innings at High Cedar Rapids, 138 ERA, a 248 FIP. Struck out plenty. Walks look much better. Has developed his pitch mix a lot because he had a little bit of a deady zone type 4-seam fastball, but when you can get up to like 100, 101, that doesn't matter quite so much. Really good slider, really good changeup. I just think it's like arm talent is easily top 100 pitcher caliber. Just all about staying healthy, see out the year at Cedar Rapids, maybe a late few innings in Wichita. But upside wise, he's up there for me with Quick as like some of the best arm talent in the system. He's a flirting with triple digits guy. All right, Theo. Tell me to shut up.
He is number 17 for me because I am a believer in what the hype can be before a major injury can really turn down a flame-throwing starting pitching prospect when one so young as Soto. Obviously, McDaniel is very high on him and wants to be ahead of the curve on him breaking into the top 100 prospect list mid-season this year, which is totally possible. I'm not denying that's the reality for him, but it's always been prove it from my point of view with him. It's like, okay, stay healthy, prove it. Maintain what you were able to do after a major surgery. And that's really where it is for me. And if he can prove it, easily top 10, would I put him in top 5? Well, we'll see who graduates by the time we get to the midseason. But, I'm not denying his upside. I just he's like the Emmanuel Rodriguez of the Twins pitching prospects, where the ceiling is so high. Yes, he could be an all-star caliber starter and maybe even someone you can really depend upon in a playoff game. But that ceiling, that floor is extremely low, like it is for Rodriguez, where one more injury and he could be done.
Mm-hmm. Yep, fair enough.
Yeah, so I had Soto at 11.
Okay.
In that mix, and I guess I'm kind of in between the both of you because, yeah, there's some teasing qualities there. He never had surgery though, right? It was just
He did have some surgery. I think that was in August. I got to look at it real quick.
It was described as like a procedure. So what I took that to mean was like an outpatient, like leave the same day type of deal to clean up a bone spur on his elbow, I believe.
Okay.
Needs to be fact checked on that, but I don't think it was like super invasive type of surgery.
It was a detached bone spur, and what landed him on the IL in the first place at the start of the season was a triceps injury. I don't know if that might have been another thing where it was just a procedure as well, but that kept him out for a significant amount of time before we heard about the bone spur at the end of last season.
Right, and so when you're talking about that, there's the uncertainty. Obviously, Prelip doesn't have a clean bill of health. Quick doesn't have a clean bill of health. But when you have something like that, a tricep strain, followed by a bone spur, you're 20 years old, you've pitched 74 innings, you rely on throwing gas. Like there's a lot of questions. Could he develop into a number one starter? Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reality. Could he fizzle out and never make it to AA? I think that's also a reality. So just a super wide range of outcomes, which is why I have him just a little bit lower than maybe others do.
Fair enough. Okay, you guys, this is the part where I start to get confused, and we've probably covered some of these, but we'll just check our bases anyway. So we've gone through our top 7s. At 8, I had Houston. Theo, you had...
We don't
Gabby
have
Gonzalez. At number 8.
And Jeremy, you had who?
My 8 was Dasan Hill. So my top 8, and now my number 9 with Gabby Gonzalez has been covered.
Got it. For the record, before Theo starts this off on Gabby Gonzalez, I have him at 12 because I am famously a Gabby Gonzalez hater. Theo, take it away.
No one hates him as much as you.
Yeah, I am going to be the opposite and be the ray of sunshine in Gabby Gonzalez's life here on Destination the Show. So look how he just blossomed through the system and maintained his batting average 316 at every level or higher. I mean, I know some of us are low on batting average these days and just don't think it's as important a stat, but he was just hitting no matter what. And he was the youngest player at AAA before they called up Walker Jenkins a few weeks after him, and he was able to maintain his own for a much longer period of time. And I think, he's a guy who could be at the top of the lineup and just, start the train running and just get on base with. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more hits than walks right now, but I think he still has a decent, judgment of the strike zone. It's no Emmanuel Rodriguez, but I think he will be able to tread water in the majors with what he has. Now, the power, that's another thing. It's like, is he going to hit more than 15 home runs in a season in the majors? Maybe not. It might be there over time, and his ceiling is probably going to be a 20, 25 home run guy if it ever does show up there. But, I mean, I just love the pure hitter that he is, and that really shone for me. So let's hope that maintains itself in 2026.
Let me recap some numbers, Jeremy, before I pitch it over to you here, because it is worth grounding in Gonzalez's season. I think some of these recent guys have either had injury-shortened seasons or were just drafted. Gonzalez's numbers are amazing from 2025. Even I can admit that.
Sorry, hit the wrong button.
Theo got rid of you. 123 games. He had 329, 395, 513, a 148 WRC plus. This is across 3 levels. 15 home runs. Here's the crazy part to me. 15 home runs, 38 doubles. Over 50 extra base hits is absolutely ridiculous. 9% walk rate, 14% strikeout rate. The hit tool is certainly legit. Here's my beef with Gonzalez. Absolutely incredible bounce back season from a terrible 2024. That is undeniable. I still have some concerns about some of the warts in the game. This is like a 2.5 tool guy. He can hit, no doubting that. He has a good arm that will play in right field. He is not a good athlete. He is not fast. He does not look like a good outfielder. That's neither here nor there. The problem with the hit tool and the power might get to average. Like his max EV at AAA was 110 miles an hour. That's 50 grade power potentially if he can get to it enough. Great. He chased 36% of the time at AAA against AAA pitching. And, we expect to see some erosion of guys' numbers after they get to that level. But my concern is if he gets to the majors, pitchers are just going to throw him slop outside the strike zone. He's going to quickly get 0-2, 1-2, and just be in leverage counts so often that he's not going to get to use those excellent bat-to-ball skills to the best of his ability. So no denying his amazing 2025. I think his chase is actually pretty concerning and something I would monitor closely heading into 2026 when we'll surely see him in the majors. Jeremy, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of demonstrated why he's not rated higher, right? But I guess for me, it's if you can hit, which he's done, there's a decent floor. Obviously, there like you said, there's some warts to his game, but what the Twins don't have is this type of prospect, right-handed hitting outfielder, who gets on base. Last year it was almost 40% of the time. I'll take a guy like that in my organization. And is he a left fielder at target field? Probably not. But is he the next best right-handed hitting outfield option? Yeah, he really is. And so I think there's a chance that he can play, and if he starts hitting, he's the spark plug that can get on base. That's the question, right? Who's going to get on base? And Gabby Gonzalez is potentially a guy that could get on base. There's a lot of reasons that maybe he doesn't, but I do think that he could be someone that helps the lineup.
Famously, the Twins do not care about right-handed hitting outfielders.
They don't. They have one. They just have the one guy who wears 25, and they had that guy that wore 34. And other than that, that guy that wore 48.
Yeah.
Other than that, no right-handed outfielders.
Well, the guy who wore number 5.
The guy that wore number 5. They wanted to make him a second baseman though for a while.
Yeah, well, look how that turned out.
Yeah, he ended up in right field with a cannon.
Okay, I don't even know what number we're on. We're on 9.
Well, so here's the thing: how far do you want to get to? We talked about 10 guys at this point.
Yeah, I think we should push pause.
Yeah, so we could call that part 1, and we could start next week on part 2.
There's going to be 3 parts of this because there's also a who are we predicting is going to rise outside the top 20 portion of this, plus mailbag type stuff. So we're moving slowly, but I think it's in service of good discussion, and it's 3 of us instead of 2. So all about it. Okay, we will be back next week with part 2 of 3 or 4 of our top 20 Twins list. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. As always, we will dig into some more debate and argument this time next week with Theo live from Fort Myers. So boots on the ground. Can't wait.
I will be my final turn to be the last one to be doing it from a hotel because you two have done recordings from a hotel. It's only right I finally get one in.
There we go.
There you go. All right, take it easy, you guys. Thanks for checking out the show. We will catch you at the same time next week.